everything else versus Bitcoin essentially gets spent and dies.
I want to be able to have reactive security. And I think Opvault is today the most straightforward, easiest to use way to do that.
I will not be insulted by a clockmaker.
Overall, these kind of ways to make the network easier to both build on and interact with, I think is a really big deal.
If Bitcoin existed when we started Twitter, we would not have to go down the ad model path. I mean, it's simple as that.
Integrating Lightning into a social network is the killer app.
Hello, and welcome to the Bitcoin.review podcast, where we explore developments and projects with the people who actually make them happen. The show is supported by Pod 2.0, Sat Streaming, and CoinKite. If you're a new listener, I'm NVK. I run CoinKite, where we've been helping people secure their Bitcoins for over a decade. We make the cold card and fun products like the block clock. You can find more information about it on coinkite.com. I have a pretty awesome group of folks here today as we talk about Nostr again. This is, it's been a while since the last episode with Will, Fiat, and Jack. I think it's a good time for us to sort of like, you know, see how far we've come and how things are going. So without further ado here, let's welcome our guest, JB. Hello.
Hello.
Nice mic there. Mr. Odell.
Good to be back. How's it going, gents?
Hey. First appearance here by Pablo.
Hello.
And the man of the hour here who created the thing. Hey, Fiatjaf.
Hello.
So guys, like how far have things come since I can't remember like if the last episode was pre or post Chinese spam. Do you guys remember?
What date was that? I forget.
Maybe Johnny will come back to us with some dates here. But I think now we're at about 500,000 active users on Nostr as per Primal Dash there. And, things haven't broken. It's working. It's kind of amazing.
I don't believe these numbers. 500,000.
Yeah, I do. I totally do.
I mean, he screens it. It's through primal.net, and he screens it based off of
Matt.
22 million pub keys.
Matt, we're losing your audio there. I think you need to turn off video. Your upload speed there is bad. I think we lost Odell.
Did you lose me?
Try again, Matt.
Am I here?
I mean, only you and whoever you believe in can answer that question.
I was just saying that on primal.net, he does some kind of screening. So it's 22 million pub keys, but he says 500,000 active users.
Yeah, there is like a decent amount of like cleaning up there, I think. But regardless, I mean, point is, like we were just recently, we were about like, say 20,000 active, and we went like, say 200x from it without counting the spammers. Like maybe the more sophisticated spammers are still being counted, but
Well, Nostr band says 15,000 high quality.
There's no way it's 15,000.
No way it's 15,000.
No, absolutely no way.
Really? I only see like 200 people. So
the metric I use is I have a sneaky thing where every new sign up on Damus, they automatically follow the Damus account. So I know for sure there's 208,000 people following the Damus, at least according to Nostr Band.
Yeah, and honestly, like leads from iOS are quite good. It's like China doesn't have the good click bots as they do with Android on iOS because they have to create an Apple account for each. And to create an Apple account these days, you need credit cards and things. So, it's a nice little...
So what's the number of Damus installations?
I'm seeing like around 10,000 almost per week. So I see like a constant stream of people coming in every day using through the welcome relay on the Nostr wine. So it just seems like a constant stream. It's kind of hard to tell how active everyone is, but people are finding it organically, it seems.
Yeah, there's no marketing team yet for Nostr. Okay, so let's just sort of like split the difference, and let's say that we have 250,000 active users, right? Like I think everybody could sort of agree with that, aside from Fiatjaf. Is that right?
Yeah.
Perfect. so that's not immaterial, right? Like that's like real active use. I mean, do we know how many like active users Mastodon has, like on the reasonably large instances combined? Maybe like 1 million people.
Yeah, I think it's up in the million range.
There you go. And they've been around for what, like 10 years?
Yeah.
So things are moving, right? I mean, like Blue Sky, I've tested. It was like crap.
How many users they have?
I don't know, like probably like a few thousand.
50. Okay.
Did everyone see the Blue Sky's post, the CEO post from Jay? That's hilarious.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, platforms, like not platforms, protocols, right? Protocols don't have CEOs. Although I did ask Fiatjaf to remove somebody. I can't remember who. I'm still waiting.
And you don't need an invite code to use the protocol, right?
Yeah.
The thing that happens to me every time someone like joins, they say, "How do I get verified?" I'm like, "Can you verify me?" I'm like, "No, I can't. Sorry."
I know people are so used to this idea that like, they need to go beg somebody to be sort of like certified as a human being. It's weird.
Yeah, and so many people ask me like, "Oh, can you remove this person?" I'm like, "No, that's not the point. I literally cannot. Sorry."
I mean, apparently I can remove myself from Damus. That has been proven to be possible.
Yeah, I saw the other day a comment line to undelete your account from Damus. So
and it was actually very scary because like maybe like I'm like, did I miss something? Is there a harakiri for keys on the Nostr protocol that is like maybe undocumented NIP or something like that? Like I was not expecting it. And I couldn't like, BRB is in BRB mode still. And I couldn't like, I didn't have my own relay to go like look at the raw data anywhere. Like what's going on?
Yeah, I might just remove that check just because I feel like Apple's pretty chill lately. Like they don't really bother me much. So I could probably remove that check that doesn't let you log in if you delete your account.
No, I don't see any issues. It's fine. It's just, I guess, documenting it. But, I totally get it too, right? You can't document because then Apple like might say, hey, this doesn't actually do what you're claiming it does. Don't worry. They don't listen to this pod.
Yeah. And I'm worried like one day Damus will just get so popular and then, I mean, hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. But then I'll be under more scrutiny from Apple. So I'm wondering like, should I keep these things that I put in for the review or should I remove them to make it easier for users? Yeah, I don't know. For right now, I'm just kind of keeping them. The
way I look at it is like, because it doesn't affect the protocol and doesn't affect the person's keys, now that I know that, it's sort of like a fair best effort in a way for you to sort of like prevent somebody to like being on the app by their own request. So it's kind of like okay in my view.
Just operate under the assumption that Apple is going to fuck you many times, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm being very defensive in that sense. So
yeah, I think it's a good way of going about it. So guys, okay, so like the social media use of like Nostr is definitely growing. And now I feel like we're sort of like in between hype cycles. So like it's growing but growing slower. And we're gonna explore more of that later on the show. But what about the other uses? So for example, the bounty for Substack replacement with the abla.news. And I'm really sorry to the other makers who made a few other alternatives to that. Like that was impressive to me. The fact that you can just sort of like roll something out like that so quick, even though theoretically it's possible to do all these things, but then like somebody just goes and like calls something in a week and it's like boom,
and then Pablo comes along with like another micro app that like adds highlighting to long form stuff, and it's like what the hell. So now I'm like, it gives me ideas. I'm like, oh, now I can implement highlighting and long form in Damus because now there's all this data available. So just seeing that type of interaction between these micro apps and people building stuff is just incredible.
to me, the intersection between the data on the different apps, the different use cases, is what like super excites me. Like the highlighter.com, I started calling it Subworthy. NVK hated the name from the beginning, so I changed it to highlighter.com. And
I am your name consultant.
Yeah, just like before Subworthy, I had Subwordthy, and then it's like, oh fuck, that sucks so much. but yeah, like the idea, because I first implemented long form because I wanted to be able for people to be able to load a post from Avla and then highlight from there, and then because it's a Nostr event, you can interact with the highlight because it's a Nostr event, so you can sap the highlight. And then I thought, oh fuck, I can do splits on the highlights, and if I know the NPub of the author, I can do like splits all the way to how the person interacted with the content, all the way to the creator of that content. So whoever was in the way. So if I write something and then someone highlights it and then someone boosts it and that another person boosts that, like you can absolutely sap every single person in the way. It's like fucking mind blowing.
Yeah,
and
so
then I started thinking,
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
A lot of people are confused about Zapworthy, so maybe you could just give a high level explanation, like what is Zapworthy and like why would you?
No, Zapworthy does not exist anymore. It's called Highlighter.
Yeah. Oh shit, sorry.
It's now it's highlighter.
Highlighter. Sorry, I totally.
Yeah, no,
I like Zapworthy as a name. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, Matt buys bad domains, so don't listen to him.
Highlighter is already as a product.
I thought Highlighter was something else. Actually, now I'm confused.
No, so highlighter. So yeah, Subworthy. As I was using the name, I realized that I didn't like it that much. It feels like it constrains the product on what it can be too much, because ultimately what I was thinking is highlighter or Subworthy or whatever you call it is, I was thinking, okay, it's a Nostr client where you interact with the data that you care about the most. Because I've been like productivity using Evernote and Roam Research and whatever Instapaper, like all this stuff. And the thing is that whenever you switch from one to another, you lose everything you've done. And Nostr is absolutely perfect for that. So I'm thinking, okay, I actually want to start keeping everything that is digital, everything that is information natively within Nostr. And so I started building highlighter. Like the highlighting part is cool because I made an extension and you can go to medium.com or you can go to any website and then you can highlight something and it creates a Nostr event of that thing and it references the URL. And then you can take that highlight with, like it's an addressable, it has an ID. So you can do, like, you can put it on a list, you can create comments, you can move it to the to-dos if it's something that you need to read, for example. So it's a bit of a vague idea. I'm still like figuring out what it is, but the goal that I have in mind is a mix, like replace Obsidian, replace Evernote, replace like all these things that are keeping your data in this non-interoperable way.
How the hell did you get highlighter.com? That's a fucking great domain.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Someone gave it to me.
Why hasn't been taken?
No, it's been taken for a year. So DK, who is he's in Nostr all the time. DK, he used to have a company, and the idea of the company was highlighting. So he bought that domain like fucking ages ago. He's not using it anymore. It's like, you want this domain? I was like, yeah, I do want the domain, please.
Oh, that's great. So like one thing that sort of like always bothered me about trying to save notes and sort of like trying to link notes within the Nostr sort of universe has always been sort of like, why am I pasting a URL? I should be pasting a note ID that then the clients go try to look on the relays that I'm part of for whatever content that is, and then try to display that as a preview of that in there. However, and then on top of that, when I go and I say for example, I shared a note on Damus, right, of a highlight, right? So there's a highlight there, but not using the highlighter.com URL. I'm just posting a note but a back32 note ID there. Now I made a new note with that note nested, right? And then when I go on snort.social, for example, and share that URL of that note on a nested note into, say, Twitter, ideally I should that should resolve the two previews somehow. And that, in my view, is like perfect use of this.
Yeah, so this is doable, and it's just a matter of implementing a viewer for each different note type. Like right now, when you post a note reference, usually by doing Nostr : or doing at Nostr or at an event, it'll try to create a preview. But yeah, not all events have has a render, so we can render notes pretty easily. But people are doing polls, people are doing other things, so it's just a matter of just implementing the viewer for all the different types.
Is there like sort of some effort, I guess, into standardizing? I think is too strong of a word, but like trying to come up with some sort of guidelines around like how to render all these different notes, because at the end of the day, most of them are going to be some form of text and other stuff. So like I'm thinking, hey, like ideally it shouldn't be too hard, but famous last words.
Yeah, but like most notes are not really like text, of like zaps or polls or highlights. That you definitely need a custom render for each one of those things, because most of the time the content, if you just render it as text, it just won't look right. It'll be confusing for users. And that's what I even found when I had when Damus had kind42, which is like the chat messages. I had actually just put them in your feed, and people were like didn't realize they're interacting with the chat room when they replied to it. It was just way too confusing. So yeah, I think there's you need special UI support for each note.
One thing I did for Subster, which is the music player that I was working on a few days ago, was the content of each track, so of each song, can be rendered. If you render the content, it will be something that makes sense, and it includes a link to the BR034 of the event. So if you render that, it kind of makes sense. And Fiatjaf, I think it was yesterday that he commented on a song, because I added like the capability to chat about the song that you're listening, and he was on Subster and he commented on a song saying, "Is this Lana Del Rey?" And that appeared with like zero context.
I was trying to test the thing, and I have to write something here, so I didn't expect it to become this.
That's funny.
So, what do you think you should do on that case? I don't know. I think it's hard problem to solve. I was thinking you should prepend the content with a readable reference, so all clients can display that.
Like the way that the legacy web did this is by, you guys familiar with Open Graph, right? And Open Graph, it's in all its shittiness, does resolve the problem, which is like for like within reason, right? But it does provide a canonical sort of like solution for most clients to at least preview the stuff, right? They might not know how to like maybe suck that content and actually show it. Say, for example, like a Zap poll, right? Maybe the poll itself you can't render because it's more complex stuff, but maybe that poll has some text metadata on it that is a part of the actual event that then can get displayed saying, this is a poll about whatever. Do you know what I mean? Or this is a Zap poll. just something so that like you're not just seeing like random empty or however like a client sort of falls back to an error. I because this is only going to get bigger, right? Like as people come up with like crazier and crazier shit to display, we're not going to have like even a way of finding out what it is half the time.
I think it's important to address it as soon as possible, because one thing that I've started to see is because when your event kind is non-recognizable, but most people are used, you lose the discoverability that Nostr gives you for free, which is so awesome, right? And one thing that Wavlake did, the web app, the music player, the one that looks like an iPod or whatever it looks like. What they did is when they create a track, they create the track, and at the same time they create a kind one with a link to the app with the track, right? So in that sense, and then when you sap a track, you're actually sapping the kind one. When you comment on a track, you're actually commenting on the kind one, which means that non-kind one events with content are kind of like second-class citizens, which I think it's 100% the wrong direction.
So I actually just thought of a solution to this, and it's like, while you guys were talking. So the only way I can think about doing it, we could actually just use Open Graph itself. So it's a bit centralized, but imagine if there's a website that has a huge database of all the different kinds, and it actually rendered an Open Graph preview for that kind. And then, so if I see a kind that I don't recognize, I can simply put that link, which is maybe it's like kinds.lol/ and then the kind number, and it would generate an Open Graph preview for that kind. That might work.
Yep.
We could actually just do it within Nostr, where you query your followers, your follow list, your contact list. You query apps that they've registered to handle a kind. And then you can query via that kind.
That is too complex, I think. I like William's idea. We could have a bunch of these websites, but then you need to render websites. You need to render HTML.
Well, I mean, a lot of the clients have the Open Graph preview software. Yeah, that is very complex. So maybe there's like a simpler.
Yeah, we should introduce that requirement, I think, maybe.
I mean, but what if we just added a line, like another sort of like maybe another entry to some of those NIPs that have like they're just defined description or defined title. So, for example, for long form notes, right, which is like a very good sort of easy low hanging fruit there of like a type that, you may not know exactly how you want to render it. But like, if you just have like, okay, so this is the title, this is a description, right? You don't need to go read the actual full note to try to summarize it for display.
Yeah, I mean, there could be a NIP that just says, in the subject tag, add a description for this, just for clients that don't have that implemented. It might bloat a lot of notes, but I don't know, maybe it's a good idea.
I mean, for long notes, I mean, you're talking about already like, 3,000, 5,000 words anyways. So like, it's not going to be that like the extra line, right? And it could be very useful to have a title.
So I'm definitely adding a custom renderer for long form notes because I think it's like so important. It's like if we want to replace Substack. So what I'm thinking of is just instead of showing just obviously like a truncated version of the top half of or maybe the first paragraph, I might just actually the first thing you see is a title and like number of words and the author. And that's the first thing you see in your feed. And then you can click it and then it opens up to a regular thread. And it's going to have markdown and inline images and stuff. So that one's definitely worth adding custom support for.
I just want to say I like the idea of having a fallback so clients don't have to implement everything. Clients can implement what they want, but they're free to not implement what they don't want, and they still see something that makes some sense. Yeah,
I like that.
And then they can just show, oh, this is a long form thing, and a link to open it somewhere else on the browser or something if they want.
I will just say from a user point of view, if we don't get to the point where it's just a single client where you can view both the short form and the long form, then I would consider that a failure, right? Like it'd be nice to just have a single client. You just see the post and you can interact with it in that same client.
Yeah, Damus is going to have this in like a week. Like that's how easy it is to add these things. So
I don't think we should have a single client. If you strive for that, you want a single client that does everything, and then there's only one team that is capable of maintaining that client, and then that single client will control the protocol and start to ban people. So I think we should maybe we should educate
I don't mean it like that,
to be able to use.
Yeah.
You mean just for the long form and short form stuff?
Yeah, exactly. If I'm reading content, if I'm reading text content, I don't really like. Why are we even basing it off of like the idea of like character restrictions was a Twitter platform restriction, right? Like if I write 600 words in a blog post versus writing 300 words in a quote unquote short form, like why should my readers have two different clients to view that content in?
Well, you shouldn't write 300 words on a short post, right? Like this is ultimately the issue, right? Like Twitter experience, right? That form of social media is defined by the microblogging 140 characters they had initially, right? It defines the conversation too. It defines the mood, it defines everything. Like I'm not like going to go into is it good or bad kind of issue, which kind of, has both issues, but like it's nice if we can, not have people write, for example, I posted the whole list episode as a node on Damus. I think he almost crashed the client on desktop, and just to see what happens, right? And I don't know, like
you're a fucking hypocrite.
Exactly, but I did it on purpose. But maybe the idea is like once apps have a better sort of UX for like trying to help the user make better posting decisions, right? Like these things will sort themselves out. So like, for example, if I post in the input box on Damus, over 500 words, Damus suggests, may I post this for you? Or don't even ask the user, but you post that for the user as a long form text, and maybe you pop up a window, say, would you like to give it a description?
Have you been checking out our backlogs? This is exactly what we're doing.
There you go. No, I don't. There's too much backlog and too many applications. But no, that's awesome.
Yeah. So there's this contention between, in some sense we built, Damus is this relatively large code base now that can handle lots of different things. It's really good at rendering different notes. It's very efficient at pulling down notes. So, there's this desire, it's so easy to add these like extra notes, that people are adding. So that is kind of a risk because now we're turning Damus into some sense like a web browser. And we saw with the web, it got way too complicated in adding like all these different features. So maybe we can get to a place where one day, it's easy just to spin up new iOS apps, for instance, with different node types. We're not there yet. But for now, it's just so easy to add different node types. And it's like, why not kind of thing. But, I don't think Damus will ever be the best like DM client. Like I would love to see like a standalone DM client.
Well, I don't think Nostr can do DMs. Like at least now with the current technology.
Well, there was that app Seer that the guy was working on.
Yeah, what happened to that?
That was very good app for DM. But he said he got demotivated because so many people trashing on NIP-4. So
yeah, I mean, the problem is like without forward secrecy, like you don't want to do DMs, right? Because if you leak your keys, then like all your DMs are like now public and searchable too. Like I unless you have like a private relay or something. Like I don't know. It's not my preferred solution. The other day I was suggesting that maybe we do OTR or something for DMs between clients, and then stick that inside a NIP-4 message.
I just kind of treat my DMs as public, and then it's just like a way that people can private message me in private conversation, but I never try to put like keys in there or anything.
Right. Your phone number, find me on Signal. I don't want to put my phone number there because
I'll usually be like, here's my Signal number if you really want to do this other stuff, right? But
what about the issue of just with DMs not knowing if the person has received your DM? I mean, if whatever relay you shared is having connection issues or something like that, it shows as is sent in the client, but like you don't know if they've even received it.
I kind of like that because
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like on Telegram is horrific. It's like you have all this like people who contact you and like, like it gets out of control and you don't want to answer everybody, or you don't have like physical capability of answering everybody. But on Telegram, it shows like one, you have received it, and two, you have read it. Like, so like it becomes very impolite not to answer. While on Nostr, I essentially gave up, right? I don't use DMs. Like, it's like, nope.
Yeah, I don't use it either.
Yeah, no, I use DMs a lot. It's kind of like that. I'm just trying to like use Nostr as much as possible. And, if it's not good, then I kind of forces me to make it better, like dog fooding. But yeah, DMs are definitely the very horrible part of the protocol right now.
Wait, so to just be clear, NVK's concern with Telegram is that it's too reliable. That's the issue.
Well, it has no privacy on your read receipt. See, at least on other apps, used to be that you can turn off read receipt, right? And it goes both ways. If you turn it off, you don't see people's read receipt either, which for me is a great trade-off, right? Also, I don't think the client should know if I read it or something or not. Like it feels invasive. Like it's not right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like read receipts are very weird pattern.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, fuck read receipts. But you just don't know that they got delivered.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, you can't do that without read receipts.
But that's up to the client choosing on which relay to post. And if your relay is using the right, if you're DMing X, you should know where to post for X. It should not just post on, okay, I write to these relays always, so I'm just going to write this DM to this person that never checks these relays. I mean, that's easily solvable.
Yeah, to get delivery receipts, you would need the client to send a note that says, I received this, which is would be really weird and very spammy. So I don't know how that would work.
Well, it's just like, it's kind of similar to the Zaps problem, right? With has it gotten paid or not? But anyway, so like I'm not gonna let this go. So how do you guys feel about OTR as a means of having a better privacy on DMs?
What is OTR?
Do you mean OMIMO, which is like the modern version of OTR?
Yeah, sure. I'm still stuck on 20-year-old technology, but
Can you explain to me in very briefly what's that?
It's just
I know a little about the double hatchet thing for Signal, but what is OTR in comparison?
It's like a very similar thing to that, as far as I know. It's just done differently.
you share knowns, right? And then essentially now you have a handshake, and you can use that going forward, and you can also rotate that if you need to. And that's it. Like it's just an ephemeral key. It's like it makes it ultra easy, right, for you to coordinate and move forward on the forward secrecy.
I think there's a lot of proposed versions, like Nostr versions of these protocols. I know there's like 4 pull requests Fiatjaf of like DM proposals.
Yeah, there are hundreds probably,
and they all do. Yeah,
I've stopped reading. Yeah, they're all like that. I was using ephemeral keys, and I don't like any of them because I think it's important for the relays to know who is spamming them, like who is trying to store stuff here in some way. So
no, but hang on a second. On my proposal here, this is just client to client. It has nothing to do with Nostr. So what you do essentially, you pass the handshake over a note, right? As a DM, as an encrypted DM to the receiver, and the receiver's client uses that OTR handshake, and then that's it, right? Like there is no extra notes or anything. Now you're just essentially putting encrypted blob inside a encrypted note. It's just that, like,
I see.
Yeah,
I see. You're doing another round of encryption that is safer.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe that works. I think most of the proposed solutions are for hiding the metadata when you're chatting.
Yeah, because that's the other problem too, right? You leak your social graph.
I have a really hacky but totally secure way of doing DMs, which I've considered doing in Damus, and it's the stupidest. It's like the dumbest thing, but it actually works really well. I have a concept called a private zap, and the way that it works is it just encrypts the author and the comment inside of the zap. So basically, it's a way of sending a completely private DM that like no one can really know. It's not completely private. Like you can try to do some analysis on the relays within the zap to try to fingerprint it. But other than that, you can't see that it was a DM from someone. So I've been considering it. It's so dumb, but it's just like an easy way to just put a super.
Because who publishes the note is the zap service.
Zapper. Yeah. So the Zapper's acting like a proxy DMer.
Yeah, I mean you're using Lightning as the carrier.
It's dumb,
right?
but it's like it works. I don't know.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's still an issue if you lose your keys, right? If you lose your keys, now all that is public to the person who has the keys.
Yeah. The forward secrecy, as far as I know, I don't think it's a solved problem on Nostr because ultimately it relies on something that's done out of band to generate an ephemeral key, and then I don't know. So if you could log into another client, you wouldn't be able to see the messages, but maybe that's okay. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like clearly there is a lot of like DMing clients out there, right? That kind of solve that problem. So like, it feels like a little bit out of scope for Nostr to fully solve that problem. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the Nostr thing is more like a protocol. Sorry, more like a broadcast kind of protocol, as opposed to like trying to have like secret messaging with people.
Yeah, I agree. So William, do you think you would have implemented DMs if there were no DMs in Braille?
I probably wouldn't have, no.
So yeah, this is all my fault.
It is your fault, Fiat.
Honestly, so much as in Damus still because of Bronley, like the relay list and the contact list. I haven't even changed that. It's just like a Bronley artifact.
Yeah, what about the verified thing for NIP-5? I think I'm in fault for that too. I'm trying to repent here.
Yeah, I actually didn't implement NIP-05 for the longest time because I didn't believe in it.
You know, I do like it. It's like it's a nice way for you to have like an out of bound verification of something. So like, you know, I do own the domain. Therefore, like what I don't like is all these websites that sell space namespace on their domains. Like that kind of defeats the purpose completely, in my opinion. Like,
So I have a really interesting thing from this morning because I was talking about this and someone messaged me because I was like, I'm going to remove the badge. You know, there's like a badge, a verification badge, because I'm tired of getting that question, like, how do I get verified? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to remove the badge from it. They're like, you can't remove the badge. I paid for that. I'm like, oh shit. Wait a minute. I'm like, oh, I have to actually think about that now. I'm like, what do I do? Because they're going to get really pissed off if I remove that because they paid for it, right? I'm like, oh shit, I guess so.
Oh man, people are so conditioned, to like, to sort of like be owned. It's weird.
Well, I think when I implemented the badge, I think it was like a tongue-in-cheek thing. I didn't expect people to believe it. Yeah.
People really like to be verified. They really crave it.
I think they just love badges. Like you just put a fucking badge. It could be anything, and people they're like, I want it. Like I added a badge for Onlyzaps. Like if you switch to Onlyzaps mode on your profile, and it like puts a little badge.
Wasn't there a project, like a website for people to create badges or something, like just recently?
Yeah, badges.page. Yeah.
Rich
did that.
It's like we're trying to free you. Like people don't want to be free; they just want to better sell. It's.
I like that. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I have nothing against badges. Like I probably will add it to Damus eventually, but we'll see.
I think the only badge I have exposed in my profile is friend of Sondre. Like it's the first badge someone awarded me just for testing, and that's it.
Okay, so the DMing part, we sort of like, agree that there's no sort of perfect solution, and it's also like maybe not yet, and it's a bit out of scope, but it is very useful, right? So, you start a conversation with somebody there, maybe you want to confirm something, you want to share something that, it shouldn't be public. Having that on the same app is quite nice. But also, I don't know, maybe Signal finally launches Signal without phone numbers, and people can just use that. What are like functions that like we must solve with Nostr? Like, so there's a Substack case, there is the Ghost blog case. It's great. Also a bounty that people did claim. What are there sort of like maybe low hanging fruit things that Nostr could resolve right now?
I think the biggest thing is not even like what we should add, is what we shouldn't break. So this is like a drama thing recently in the past couple of days, which is, Vitor like basically broke images in posts. So now whenever someone does a post on Amethyst with an image, I can't see it in Damus. So, and he was like, well, you need to implement this new NIP. I'm like, well, no, I don't want to. I don't think it's a good idea. So now we're in this situation where like everyone is now can't have a consistent image experience on Nostr. And that is like, I saw that as like an existential threat to Nostr. Because if we keep doing shit like this and then all images are broken in all clients, it's going to be a horrible experience for users. So I'm really passionate about like protecting at least like things that you should just not break, like images, right? Like you can add random shit like poll is fine, but don't break shit.
It's going to be hard, right? Because this is not like like Bitcoin where you have a single source of truth. Everybody has to agree to the nth degree on consensus or you fork off, right? Like, if you decide to change a Satoshi kind of issue there, like you're gone, right? So I don't think it's possible actually to like enforce anything on Nostr in that sense. Do we find consensus by having a tighter knit community and some norms that you get shunned off the island as a friend, at least for the next sort of couple of years as this gets bootstrapped? Or do we add, I don't know, like stronger guidelines or some other things, like essentially like you force people to break things so they don't? Like you make like stricter clients or relay rules, right? So that like you really have to respect the spec. How do you guys feel about that?
Lots of shit is going to get broken.
Yes.
I don't see any other way. I would say there's some soft pressure on like a user point of view, especially as more content creators come to Nostr and get censored other places, because they will get less engagement. They'll get less discovery if whatever client they're using to publish something breaks on like popular clients that people are reading things on where their audience is. And there'll be soft pressure there where they will want to use publishing clients that don't necessarily break the majority of standards so that they have better discovery.
Yeah, I think when the protocol gets slightly bigger, there will be no way for some client to come and implement something that breaks everything. And so that client would fix itself or no one is going to use it. But for now, I think everything is still too fragile. And for example, the thing that Vitor did, it could be that could be two outcomes. Like maybe people stop using him, like his client and move to other clients, or he could convince everybody. Like he was trying to convince William yesterday, which I find very weird. Like he was saying, "Oh, can you implement this? Like we agree between our two that you implement it." And then if the two implement it, it becomes mandatory for everybody. So it just creates a burden on everybody else.
Yeah, it was like he was asking me to basically just be extremely rude to every other Nostr client by like banding together and forcing all this work on everyone else. I'm like, no, this is like not good behavior. Like we should be trying to maintain backwards compatibility. And the thing that bugged me the most was like doing the backwards compatible version was incredibly easy. He could have just like kept the URLs there and still used like the reference to the other node, but he refused to even do that. So I was like, to me, I just started to get like Bcash vibes, where it's like, no, this is better. We're in a better direction. We're gonna hard fork, and this is gonna be a better Bitcoin. And I'm like, dude, like this creeped me out. I don't know. So
yeah, for me, that I run a lot of I wrote a lot of clients, and now
no way, no, that's not true.
And then now with this breaking change for me, it's now I have to go back for something that was working before. And I have to go and update all of them. Like there is no freaking way I can do that.
You know, inertia is a beach, right? Like inertia is a total bitch when it comes to protocols and rules. Like, you know, it's very hard for you to want to steer the ship in a different direction when people have to put a lot of work, you know, to change their thing because you want something.
Yeah, and I'm pretty bad at this because I do have like the biggest client, and I like to implement new things, but I try not to force other people to like change stuff. I think the biggest one that was kind of annoying was the new mention spec, which in some sense broke mentions for a lot of people. But I was like, well, I'll implement it anyway, just because it actually fixes a lot of issues in DMs and stuff. So it was worth implementing it. But that was actually kind of like a hard fork too, and it was kind of awkward.
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that.
For me, that broke a lot of shit.
I think it was bad, but I don't know.
It was worth it. I think it was worth it.
I think the other one is worse.
I think it's worth it because the way we were doing mentions before sucked so much. It was so dumb.
The original way was horrible. So
yeah, and this one is better. Like a new client can come and they don't have to implement mentions, and the thing kind of worked. Like you still have the content there in the node.
Yeah, and it's weird to have like that like hashtag bracket 0, and you're like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like this sort of like human kind of politicking is never going to go away, right? That's normal. That's the default.
Let me say something here. I don't want to just to trash Vitor here. I don't think he did it like he wasn't trying to be evil. I think he misunderstood the purpose of the NIP-94, and then he implemented it. And then everybody came crashing at him, so he became defensive. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people gave me like, "Oh, you're being mean to Vitor." I'm like, I don't know. I just like this is kind of like what devs do if there's some contentious
all
issue.
the time.
So I think it's
like you broke my shit. I'm gonna go blame. Listen, it's called git blame for a reason.
Yeah. So I was just like, I just feel like I was doing an appropriate amount of being upset at him online for what he was doing, and I'm just trying to pressure him my own way to push back a bit because it just felt like it was really hurting Nostr. And we all just want Nostr to get better. So, but I have nothing against Vitor. Like, I think he's fine. Like, I just feel uncomfortable when he's pushing these things and not backing off. So,
you know, but as I was saying, like, you know, it's normal, right? And that's the natural sort of intuition that people are going to have is like, hey, I have this thing that I really want to see it happen, right? I'm going to go talk to the guys that I'm already friends with on their DMs and see if I can get them to buy in. Right, to then sort of try to get a bigger group to buy in, to then get an idea out, right? Especially when it's a protocol that everybody has to agree, because you're trying to achieve a majority thing, right? So like expect that, and you know, it's not that people are evil or anything. It's just how that's how you get a new standard added or improved. And then if people don't like it, they're gonna go shit on you on GitHub. That's also how it's done. It's just that I find it like civilians, like people who don't work in software, like are just not used to like the different kind of like decorum and like absolute tear down that you do when you don't like something. And that's why software is so efficient, right? Like we removed a lot of the social sort of niceties around feedback and sort of like how you how you collaborate on something. It's just like, no, this is bad. Not like, hey, how was your day? Oh yeah, the weather is so bad. And also, by the way, I really don't like, how you implemented this, right? Like you just cut all the craft out and get shit done.
What's interesting about Nostr is like most of the time you can just let people do whatever the hell they want because there's so many different kinds, they can experiment. But kind one has become a battleground because we all use it, and when people start messing with it, it's a war. So like if you start messing with kind one, it's gonna be a battle. So I think you just got to get used to that if you want to extend kind one. So
and on another hand too, it's like this is the time to also experiment, right? Because it's still small. There's very few clients. And, it's early. So it's kind of like a hard balance to find. So, okay. So what other sort of new sort of NIPs or kinds or other little specs that should be on people's radars?
I mean, it's not really a spec, but the other thing that caused controversy, I'm sure people want to hear about it, is the whole Onlyzaps thing. So I pushed this, all it was like a flag on your profile that says, reactions. It's just a Boolean flag, reactions false. And what that originally did was like disable the ability for other people to like your post. And this was so surprising for me. Like I got so much hate for like removing someone's ability to like a post, even if that person will never see the like. There's just some weird social thing where it's like, I don't know. So I found that really fascinating, just the fact that so many people got upset about that. So I had to like backpedal and like re-add the like button for people who have Onlyzaps on there.
There was a large platform, I can't remember if it was Twitter or Facebook, one of those big ones, actually like was experimenting no likes on a subset of the users for a while. Do you guys remember which one it was? And it was kind of like a catastrophe. It just didn't work.
Well, I remember Jack saying that he wanted to remove it from Twitter.
There was some platform that did it. I can't remember which one was. But yeah, I'd be all for it. Once the clients have native Lightning wallet in them for small amounts, then I'm okay. Just because, man, opening a wallet to send a zap is so annoying.
It's annoying.
It's so annoying.
Which is why I think once we have NIP-47, and so I haven't added it yet to Damus because I want like Wallet of Satoshi or some big provider to have it so that all the users can use it. But that thing's amazing if no one really knows what that is, but I'm excited for that.
Explain it. Explain the Nostr Wallet Connect.
It was a pretty genius idea. So before this existed, I was thinking of all the different ways you might want to connect to a remote wallet. Like there's a bunch of ones that exist natively on Lightning, such as Commando for core Lightning. That's my favorite thing. I use that all the time. I've written a Lightning app that uses Commando, and it's just a way of like doing RPC over Lightning, which gets around VPNs and Tor and stuff. So I love that approach. Obviously, it's just you need to run a core Lightning node, and it's complicated, so that wasn't going to work. So there's another one called LNC, which allows you to remotely connect to, which is Lightning Node Connect, I think. It allows you to connect to LND nodes remotely, and that's just a way to, if you want to click that button on Damus to like pay to Zap, it could just like tell your node remotely to do that, right? So the other option is to, let's say, put a Lightning wallet in the client. So this has issues because now you're like a bank if you're running a custodial node, or maybe you could use something like Breeze SDK, which is a way of doing it non-custodially, but it's like requires LSPs and it's complicated. So there's this thing came along called NIP-47, which is amazing. It's just a way of paying invoices over Nostr. So the way that it works is, imagine if you have like your core Lightning node, your LND node, your Wallet of Satoshi node, and it's just listening for commands from your pub key to pay an invoice. So any Nostr client can implement this, and so when you click that button on Damus, it can just send a node over Nostr to pay that invoice, and it's just so simple, and it works for every backend. So it's just an obvious.
That's pretty similar to how like Zeus works, right? So Zeus essentially supports all those, not this specific one, but all this sort of like over Lightning node control, which is great, right? Like you have a dumb client for the wallet too, with maybe less security or whatever. And the master wallet or node can have like some proper payment threshold, say, don't spend, we all have Lightning problem, like a Zap problem. So don't let NVK spend more than 100,000 sats per day. and what's kind of cool about that is you get all this sort of like HSM policies for free on something like this.
Yeah. And the big issue with the other solutions other than NIP-47 is that a lot of the time you have to like open up ports on your firewall, or like with the LNC case you don't, because it's a little bit, they have the mailbox server, which is acting like a relay. So it's kind of like doing what we're trying to do with NIP-47. But, with NIP-47, it's just like your client is connected to some relay, and then the wallet is connected to that relay as well. So it's creating like basically a firewall bypass, like inherently built in. So you get that. So it like works everywhere. And then you have another benefit, which is you can make it easy as like a QR code you can put on your node and scan it, and then it will just connect and it'll just work. So it has so many good like UX pros and so many good like compatibility with all the different backend pros. So I think that's just going to be the way to go for most Nostr clients.
Yeah, 100%. I'm adding Wallet Connect, NIP-47 to NVK, which means that all my apps now have wallet support, which to me, because I'm doing like many micro apps, the wallet part was always like super painful. Like people were asking me to add SAPs to SapLife, so people could go to saplife.lol and SAP from there. And I started looking at it. I was like, holy shit, I'm not going to add like support for LND and for wallets of Satoshi or all this shit. Like, no way. But now with NIP-47, like I get it for free, basically.
Fiat.
I was going to ask if you're running a service that provides like wallets of Satoshi or Zebedee, you can have just a WebSocket interface listening for events, and people will treat that as a relay. The wallets will just send an event to that, and then you just discard it, do whatever it's telling you to do, pay the invoice, and then discard that. Don't have to be an actual relay. Does that work?
Yeah, but then you have the firewall problem.
No, I mean if you're a service provider, a custodial.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It sounds like you're just saying what it is. I'm confused.
I mean,
isn't that what you do?
No, yeah, but you have to specify exactly. I'm asking because I didn't read it very carefully. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, in the QR code, there's like a way. It has the relays that you want to connect to.
So you specify a very custom relay there. It's just you.
Or it could be. I think it could be multiple. But yeah, usually what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my private relay on my VPN so that no one will even see these messages. But that's just one way to do it.
Okay, that's very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. The other alternative to that was to use something like the Breeze SDK thing. How do they call it? Anyways, they created a sort of like a way for you to stick. Yeah, Breeze. Yes, Breeze created some sort of like SDK for you to just stick their wallet inside other apps, and that would already connect to their LSPs. And anyway, it's just so much more convoluted. This is so much better and easier because a lot of the people developing for Nostr clients will be probably web devs too, which they're not going to have the skill set to stick all the stuff in safely too, which has always been a little bit of a concern, at least to me. Okay, so another cool one that maybe they will definitely have a tie-in with this is the Nostr marketplace, like the NIP-15 and you don't even need to use NIP-15 to do marketplace stuff. It's just one nice way of doing it. I think that once we start seeing like the Craigslist for Nostr, that Anana, what's the name, Pablo?
Nostr.
Nostr. Nostr. It's actually very good UX there, by the way. It really works, surprisingly.
Thank you.
And I think the explosion of marketplaces is like sort of like imminent and is going to bring like a huge amount of users to Nostr because they're going to come to do either like the very dumb type of thing, which is just like, say, a post on a Craigslist slide thing. So it's just an offer, right? All the way to like some, like degen, high frequency DLC contract with like Nostr notes on some website that I never want to go to. So like, I can see how like this stuff is going to really start to accelerate as soon as we have like one sort of like solution out there that has a right market fit for something that you can't do well somewhere else. Anyways, like I think this is about to happen. Like how do you guys like are feeling out the whole sort of like using Nostr as a market?
Yeah, I think Feeder is actually adding this. He was talking recently about adding it, but I just find now it's like if we're going to be adding marketplaces to our mobile apps, the complexity is getting really high. I like the idea, but I really feel like it might be a standalone app. I'm not sure I'll add a Damus. Maybe Damus will become like the everything app, but yeah, it is starting to get lots to add all these features because marketplaces are pretty complex. So
yeah, but like Damus can still like, for example, say I posted, like an offer to fucking sell an ordinal on some website, right?
How dare you?
Exactly. I'll never sell the one that I have. But so let's say like, somebody, some DGen out there wants to sell their ordinal on whatever website that uses Nostr markets, right? Like somehow, whichever implementation they end up doing. But like they could still share their offer on Damus. That is like the note ID for that marketplace offer on Damus saying, hey guys, my shit is for sale here, right? Like go there to coordinate and do things. Like that should be straightforward, ideally.
Yeah. So would you like buy the thing with Zaps? Like how does that work? So it's just like a link to a marketplace entries.
Well, I think how you do the payment coordination is going to depend on what people are selling and how. Like, I think like there's going to be marketplaces specialized in doing ordinals with PSBTs, right? And what they're going to do is they're going to, and they could still use Nostr for that. And then you're going to have other marketplaces that are just like Craigslist, like Pablo did, where you're going to have just somebody posting, hey, please buy my barbecue. I'm going to, I need to sell my grill, right? And people may not even pay over Nostr, right? They just might meet in person and give cash. Like
it's more for like interoperability, like between the like liquidity. I guess you wouldn't even call it liquidity, but like the different marketplaces, right? Like if you're selling a desk on one app, all these other apps that support the protocol specs should be able to see that you're selling the desk there and potentially buy it from you.
Yeah, it's more about advertising your offer outside of the trading platform. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, to me, the key is that if we keep expecting, it goes back to what we were saying before, but if we keep expecting that each non-kind one event will have a replica kind one pointing to this other event, to me, it feels, maybe kind one it is special, and that's why it gets the number one. But it feels like non-kind one events start to become second-class citizens because they are not within the app that most people are using, or I don't know. I think it starts to suffer discoverability.
Is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think so. Yeah. Why not?
Well, because say for example, your offer note is like some complex DLC or whatever, and it has no metadata on it. Like you might leverage note kind one in say Damus to say, hey, I have this complex DLC thing sitting in this other Nost event. That like it may not have metadata there for people to understand what it is or to advertise it. Does that make any sense?
No, it does make sense, and yeah, maybe for the DLC example where the event itself might be like super complex to parse, but maybe there is some way in which each event can downgrade to like something that can be displayed as a text one and then handled by something else, like a different app. And then Damus or Amethyst can handle the other part, hand it off to something else, but display the event natively, in a way that it makes sense.
That's what we were discussing in the beginning, right? Of having like a subject tag that you can display even if you don't know what that note is. Something like that.
I was just going to say that's the arc, right? Yeah. We go back to having metadata for people to discover things. It's not like an easy answer either, right? It's like, yes, we don't want to have bloat and duplication, but at the same time, having canonical information on notes that don't have canonical content might be interesting.
I think we should be very careful about like making it a common pattern to put other events in kind one as a reference, because like it's a bad user experience, and then you can't filter it out as easily. Like that's why I did implement quote reposts in Damus as kind one, but I almost regret it because of that, because like maybe it should have been its own kind, like the repost kind. I don't know, just because it sucks when you open up a text one post and you can't load what's in it. It's just like a bad experience.
Yeah, there is a lot of empty, like anti-quote notes empty inside. Like that there is something inside, but it's not there because I think you don't have access to that relay.
Yeah, and obviously the worst version of this is NIP-94, which is like embedded images. It's like, but there's been other things where people quote post a poll, right? So it's like, well, I guess I could just put like unknown kind, but it's still a bad experience.
Okay, so I don't know. Like, have you guys seen, aside from Pablo's Anana Nostr?
Anana Nostr.
Anana Nostr.
What is this? What is this? I don't know what this is.
It's a Craigslist.
That's his
it's
Craigslist.
Like one
That's
of the
great.
first projects that I wrote. It's a Craigslist.
Well, why does it have that name? Such a weird name.
I don't know. I literally was writing it. I looked through the window and I saw a truck driving with a pineapple. And in Argentina, anana is pineapple. And I said, Nostr.
See, and that's why Pablo is been decommissioned from choosing names for his project.
Yeah, Odell once said I had the worst names for things. So we find someone better. So,
Branley was okay.
I think he was talking about Etlinion. So that was a very good name.
Indeed.
What you're going to ask NVK? NVK was asking something.
Yeah. So have you guys seen other marketplace style clients, and have you heard about people working on them, and like what's going on in this space?
Well, the LN Beats people have a very large thing there that I didn't try yet. Like they have a client for the marketplace, they have a host for the marketplace, and yeah, it's a very, very big thing. But I'm kind of skeptical of the marketplace thing. I think it should be later. I think there are lower hanging fruit for us to implement first.
What's the lower hanging fruit?
Well, Git and Wikipedia. I like Wikipedia stuff. Yeah, but I think Git, and I was thinking that the Git stuff has the same problem with that you mentioned with the marketplace. I think the issue is that you want to search for a thing. And for example, today when I try to find a library to write something, I go on GitHub and use the search there. But sometimes there's a
That's
library.
the whole value.
Sometimes there's a library that is not on GitHub, but it's on GitLab or somewhere else. And then I don't find it. And I was thinking what would happen if Nostr can solve that, if we completely destroy GitHub and everybody's hosting repos in different places. How can we search things? And in the same way, how can we search for the guy that is selling his bike? I don't know.
Well, I mean, discoverability has always been the issue with decentralized projects, right? By nature. So I really think that like one thing that is nice about this sort of like anything goes on Nostr, right? You can have decentralized, you can have distributed, and you can have private, and they can all sort of interconnect too, is that you can have people providing sort of aggregators, right? For topics of things, right? So for example, I can claim that I have the best aggregator for Craigslist posts, and I filter that well, and you pay me $5 to subscribe to my relay that has those, right? And they're nicely cached, and they're also archived, right? In case, because that's another huge advantage of GitHub. Before GitHub, people don't know this, like SourceForge was a huge place for people to keep stuff. But as soon as the guy dies or decides to go away, like it's gone, right? Like the amount of software, like interesting math stuff too, that like disappeared just because, like nobody has an interest in keeping it. And it was not sort of the norm at the time. It's pretty sad. So maybe now there's an incentive, an actual economic incentive for somebody to sort of like keep track and index some of the stuff. And maybe that's where the search comes from.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did with Purple Pages, which is like this special relay that only serves you data for like contact data and gossip data. And it only serves you those kinds. And because it's so little data, I'm archiving everything. Like every time there is a contact information change, I'm archiving everything because, I mean, maybe I will not at some point, but it's nothing. It takes like a couple gigs at most.
But there has to be a financial incentive, right? Because that costs money to keep that thing running. And one day, Pablo is not going to live forever. I mean, we wish he would, but he won't. So maybe he's replaced by his AI, but like who's going to keep that backup server going economically?
The Damus relay, which is backing up all this Chinese spam.
Hey, I fixed that.
24 hours.
I fixed that now.
I mean, you can always just block Chinese Mandarin completely, right? Boom, problem fixed. I'm kidding. That's horrible.
Once the CCP blocked the Damus relay from the country, the spam went down a lot.
There you go. So yeah, like, I gotta say, like the idea of like full ephemeral sort of existence of things feels great when we're talking about people posting about their farts on microblogging. But like when you're talking about things that are like, super, super value add to humanity, right? Like software and big sort of thinkings of writings and, like other stuff, it would be nice if there is an incentive for those things to be capped. Even with Twitter, right? There's a lot of like, it's of course hidden in like a lot of shit, but there's a lot of value inside Twitter too that like will get lost if Elon decides to close the doors, right? Because there's no easy API for you to suck that out and make a copy of it, aside from your own stuff.
I recently did a dump of the Damus relay. It's like 80 million JSON lines, and it's like probably around 60 gigabytes, about 13 gigabytes compressed. Probably a lot of that spam, but there's no reason why I can just like throw that up on a torrent as like an archive. But I'll probably have to eventually kill the entire database and start over because it's getting too big.
Totally. I think we got to 256 gigabytes because we were not filtering on, is it 250 gigabytes? Something like that once the spam came in. But anyways, so like, I think like that's like a question that's still open to me. It's like how things get capped. And like, there's like right incentives for things to get capped, especially when you start getting into say Git, right? Sure, Git's decentralized and you can have your own copy of stuff. But again, like the value of, like collaborative coding is finding somebody else's library, like Fiat was saying. And aside from the server that has all that stuff indexed, it would be nice if there is a copy of all that stuff in many places too.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone who cares more about a certain piece of data, and then those people are going to be sending it to a relay that they know they're at least going to back up. And so they might. So if you're sending all your data to the Damus relay, like that's just signaling, and that's the only relay you're sending it to, then you're signaling that you don't really care about that data very often because I'm probably going to get axed the database. But if you really care about the database, like imagine if Bitcoin Core had like a Git Nostr relay, they would probably be backing that up and things like that. So. I don't know. I think individuals are going to be making sure their data is retained over time.
Personally, I just do every note into Blaster and then problem resolved.
That's horrible. That's
Blaster is such a bad idea. Like, who built that? I don't know.
It's terrible.
I love that Ben and the guys did it. No, I mean, it is useful, right? So for example, when I committed Harakiri on Damus, having a relay pusher, let's call it this way, to push my new nodes to fix that in most relays, like Blaster was actually kind of useful. I don't know.
Yeah, it is very useful. I think it's really bad for kind ones, especially. But I think it's but what I find very interesting, and I actually started running a Blaster relay myself as well because I wanted to see like how many people are using these things. And what's I think it's interesting from Blaster is that it shows how important it is for people, like how common it is for people to not see events and for their events to not be seen by others. So I think it highlights that there is still an issue on discoverability and relay traversal.
It could be cool, and I'm sure it's going to end up showing up some tool in some of the big clients. It kind of gives you like you can have a little analytics there on your content. Like you go in your profile and you click, and it shows like the common relays that do see your notes. That you may not have it, right? Because maybe they're getting there in some other means, but like it helps people figure out if their network graph is seeing everything.
Yeah, I have something like that. So I have one relay that is it connected to a bunch of relays, and it's just basically absorbing everything. And what I'm doing is every time I see a pub key writing on a relay, I increase by one hash for that pub key. So I have a list of every pub key where they tend to write, like I don't know, 80% of your events are here, like 5 events are on this one relay. And then what's cool is that then I can do intersections, right? So I can tell you, okay, based on your follow on your contact list, you should be using these relays, and this one relay that you're writing to, always has the same events that all this other set of relays already has. So you can just disconnect from this one.
So what you're saying to me is that you're going to register the domain stalker without an e.com, and that's the name of that service?
Stockster.
Stockster?
.lol.
Okay, guys. So I don't know, like the discoverability problem is still very interesting, and it's never going to go away. But like, what other sort of sites and things are sort of like working a little bit on discoverability problem? Like text search, for example.
I mean, I really like Nostr Band. I really like Primal. These two sites are doing amazing things with like doing trending algorithms and just building search engines around Nostra. And if there's some way in the future where Damus can tap into those features, like even just like getting follower counts, like I would probably like to have that. I know sometimes some people think follower counts is a shitcoin, but it's still, people really love their follower counts. I don't know. That's the thing that people like. So I gotta provide that as an option.
I was talking to Milian about that on the Primal thing. It's like, eventually like you should just offer an API for clients to get a follower account. So when the user goes and sets up a new pub key there, you don't have to go and like nonstop query like every freaking relay the person has for their follow list, right?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I have a master plan on how to do this, because I don't want to implement every possible algorithm that everyone has, and people are going to have different relays that serve different views. So maybe you do it through an API, but I think Primal actually serves a lot of their data through a relay, like you're sending it custom commands. So I was wondering, like, what would a DSL, like a domain specific language, look like, where you can add like a plugin to your app that like maybe knows to talk to a certain relay and to pull certain amounts of data and do certain types of queries, where it's like this plugin knows how to do all that stuff, and then that's like an algorithm you just like plug into your client.
Would that go as a note?
No, this should just be like a small, even like, I don't know, maybe it's WASM, probably not WASM, but some like script or domain specific language that you just like plop into your app, and it will know how to fetch the feed, the trending feed from specific relays. Because like some of that logic is going to be complicated, right? That I would not be able to support for every different type of algorithm. So that would be really cool, I think.
So it's kind of like mini script.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's like, here's like a formula of like how to search for my stuff.
That'd be like a program that would run. Yeah.
Fiat, you're saying something?
No, I was just going to say that's very good. I was thinking, how could someone exploit that and inject a virus in your but
it would have to be sandboxed and like maybe rate limited or something. Like it could probably be really annoying if it had a rogue, script. But if it's just querying stuff, I don't see what it could do.
Well, if something can be done, people will try.
No,
like
that's
always
not true.
like that.
That's not true. There's always some things that no one tries. But yeah.
So tell me about the backdoor on Nostr then, Fiatjaf. That nobody tried.
What the backdoor? The backdoor is that I can't tell people you're banned, and then the person suddenly stops feeling the need to post.
Someone was DMing or messaging me on Nostr this morning saying that SecP is an NSA curve and it's all backdoored, and I'm like, you should use ED25519. I'm like, okay, sound like the flat earther of crypto or something.
And that's why DMs are a shitcoin.
Yeah, that's why Bitcoin is a shitcoin, right?
It's all NSA backdoored.
Well, I mean, IRSA, maybe, who knows? Maybe
he had Monero in his profile, so maybe it was just one of those.
Right. But we have Schnorr now. Okay, so I guess like the other sort of like interesting thing is file headers.
No, I have a better topic.
Okay, go ahead.
Rebel was saying some days ago that he was worried about people feeling safe on Nostr because there are people being bad, and how
you mean the Bitcoiners?
Yeah, the Bitcoiners, but like how to attract non-Bitcoiners and how these non-Bitcoiners would start to like Nostr, and Nostr wouldn't become the Nazi bar. He said, use these terms. And how do you think, what's the solution for that? I suggested, I think the solution goes through having niche relays, and relays that just ban all the Bitcoiners, and then all the leftists can go there and enjoy themselves.
Oh yeah, they should definitely run their own commie shitholes. I mean, you can have like your own sort of like relay. It's commie only. You have to pledge your allegiance to the Das Capital, and nobody else is allowed. Oh no, that's the beauty of this protocol, right? If you want to have your safe space, I mean, I'd love a safe space where people cannot talk about communism.
Yeah, maybe Damus needs like a commie mode where you like click it before you sign up, and it just doesn't add you to the Damus relay where all the Bitcoiners are. I don't know.
That's right. It just goes straight into like it becomes a bridge of Mastodon, and you can talk to other 5,000 people there who are commies too. Okay. So do you guys want to talk about file headers? I haven't read that one, and I know you guys don't like it. So,
I like it. I think it's great. I just don't think you should use it for images and replace your image and break all other images. But
Do you
otherwise,
want to give a little primer on it?
yeah, it's just I'm not sure. There's definitely some confusion as to what it was for. I think Vitor saw it as a way to replace images and have like extra metadata, such as an attestation hash to say that. So if the image ever changes, the client could detect that, and that's really useful. Nice. There's other things such as like encryption keys. If you, let's say, have an encrypted file, and then I'm not really sure what the details of that are, but it has an extra other things such as blur hash. So imagine if you had an image, but it's not fully loaded, you can actually put a blurry version of the image before it's loaded. So all really good things.
Torrent stuff.
But yeah, so what would you say the main use cases would be, Fiatjaf?
I don't know actually. I created a bounty for people to do a marketplace for files, I think, or just file sharing using torrents. And what I had in mind was something like you go to this thing and then you query all the notes, all the events, and they have pointers to torrent files or HTTP files.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to add that to Subster, because right now I just did it with HTTP for the file itself. And now I'm also doing Nostr, which is kind of cool, which is the thing that Melvin Carvalho is working on, which you sign a Nostr event and you send the base64 of the Nostr event as the authorization. So you can prove that you are that pub key. So what I did today for Subster is we released a podcast episode that we did with Nostrovia, where you need to pay 402 sats for the episode, and you get like my Nostr is checking for subs on that node from a pub key, and when the sub coming from the right supper comes in, it whitelists the pub key to access it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to add torrent. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
So like Nostr, torrent is a bit of a shitcoin. It's going to like cause like some major grief in user experiences, because what's going to happen is everybody's going to have their hash. Nobody's going to have the actual content. It's going to be like horrific. It's the same problem with Filecoin and all that shit. Like that's ultimately the issue with the HDs. Like it's like you just can't get the data because you don't know if people have it. At least with like at least at the web, like there is a promise that at least that the domain is going to be there. I don't know. It's just.
Are you saying torrents don't work?
They don't. Not reliably. No.
They do work when you have the trackers, and you have.
But so here's an interesting one, right? So the reason why torrents work is because you know the content you want because it's a movie, right? So like you go like I want Top Gun, right? And you go on the torrents and you type Top Gun. I guarantee you that like. It's 100% rotation of the torrents available for Top Gun. Like you're not going to ever find that version of Top Gun that some guy in Korea put something funny on the 10th minute of that torrent. That's the issue that I find with torrents. It's going to be very hard for content that is not widely wanted. Like, for example, pictures of Rodolfo's dog.
Yeah, but that's not the purpose, right? I think it could be for movies.
But I think that you can solve that, right? Because if you are, say, for example, you upload an audio track to Subster and you pay a fee, and you're paying a fee for that torrent to be seeded for the amount of time that you want. And then if the torrent becomes popular, then it's self-sustaining because there's people seeding it because it's popular. And then if no one wants it and you're paying for it for like 10 years and no one really wants your torrent, well, then it's on you to maintain that data available.
So I guess what you're saying is that it's not great for my dog's picture, but it's going to be great if you want to have, I don't know, like say the Bitcoin, chain up to last year, right? So like a seed of it, which already exists on the web, right? It's everywhere. It's signed. And that example is actually easy because you can check it. But, or maybe it's for movies, the movies that are definitely not pirated. So for example, something you made on your backyard. And yeah, for that, it'll be great. Everybody wants to watch Top Gunner, the movie I made in my backyard, and is well seated, and it stays like that as long as people are interested in it. I don't know, like I have this vibe, maybe it's just me being a boomer, but like, which I'm not really, but that generation, but feels that way.
Close enough.
Of like, Web 1, the whole point was don't break shit, right? You put a link on something, that fucking link still works till today. If you go to GeoCities,
copy of it, those links still work between each other, right? Like,
Yeah, but
I feel
GeoCities
like-
doesn't work anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. The domain. Links break all the time. The links break all the time.
Fine.
That's the problem.
Thanks.
That was the pitch for IPFS. They were going to say, "Oh, we're going to hash everything, so the links will never break again." And the problem is that no one's going to ever find who has the whatever hash we want. But I think for very well-defined things, for example, I've archived some websites that I knew were going to vanish from the internet some years ago. And I knew some other people wanted to access these websites. So I tried to use the IPFS to put them online and have other people find them. And that's how I found out that.
Are they
IPFS
still around?
Oh, maybe they're somewhere on my HTML, but they're not on IPFS.
They're probably gone.
But we could have that on Nostr, for example. I could just host them somewhere, and then people could help host like the other people that are also interested in these websites that I know exist.
You know, what I think I'm going to start doing is sending every note I make to archive.org as HTTP request. And that's it. Like, I don't know. I feel like we need, but this is maybe not a Nostr problem, but we need better archival sort of like solutions out there that maybe is donationware, right? Like maybe people still donate to it, but that would be great. And it's not just archive.org.
Yeah, so going back to file headers, as much as we like, as torrent is an interesting discussion, and unfortunately for Damus users, we can't take advantage of torrents because Apple has banned BitTorrent from their platform. But just this idea of having a file pointer, so something that points to something that could be encoded in a certain way, such as encrypted. So this, for me, my immediate thought in Damus was, one of the most requested thing is being able to sell encrypted files. So if we had some way to represent an encrypted file and you would know that it's an encrypted file, then I haven't figured out the best way to deliver the decryption key for that file. Perhaps it could be delivered by a zapper. But, that is something I definitely want in Damus, where you'd have like maybe a blurry image of your cat and you sell pictures of your cat. That might be a very common use case that might replace some big websites.
We did have this project. I think the domain's still around, zob4.com. So essentially that was something like that. You were able to essentially sell encrypted. We would host a blinded file, right? So like you encrypt on the client, we help you do that with some magic, and then you upload it here, and then it lives there, and then the only way for you to decrypt it is if you pay. There is a huge market for this stuff. I think it's a very cool thing, especially if it can exist within the Nostr network, right? Because I guess it could be torrent as well. You definitely don't want the stuff. That's why we killed that Zob for. You definitely don't want that to be in a server that you own. This is not a good place for encrypted data for sale.
And what's cool is that the actual encrypted data doesn't need to be a file. It could be in theory just a note as well. So you can have like a paywall note using this. I don't know if you'd use this one in particular, but in theory.
One thing I'd love to have is like, so essentially like an encrypted lockbox, right? That is not necessarily for sale. It's just like, I just want to keep a backup of something there, for example, that's encrypted with my own keys. I encrypted myself in a different system, and I'm just using sort of like your system to push it and keep it there. Would this could work for that? Fiat, like what are your opinions on more on file headers, if we have any?
Well, these are my opinions. I agree with everything you said. I'm interested in the NOSDAV thing. I don't understand it. Is it interesting? Is it achieving something like that? Selling files? Or
the DAV stuff by Camry? Is Camry doing that?
Yeah, Nostr, yeah. It's just like an HTTP server where you authenticate yourself, and you can authenticate a GET or authenticate a PUT.
But why does it have this name, DAV? Sounds like a standard.
This comes from WebDAV, which is a way of updating state on a server. So they use it a lot in CalDAV,
which works wonderfully not.
It's horrible.
Like the most horrific fucking system ever invented for updates. It's just so fucking bad.
So if it is so bad, I had that impression. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, why are we replicating this?
Yeah, why are we doing that?
I can't believe CalDAV is coming back for other things. No, but maybe it's good for things that are not calendar. I don't know. I don't know enough of other uses of it to have an opinion.
Can we replace calendar systems with like Nostr somehow? I think we talked about this on Twitter before, NVK, because it was such a shit show. Like I can't actually use the same calendar between Android and Apple. It just completely doesn't work, even though there's supposedly an open standard.
Yeah, but same with SMTP, right? I mean, it's supposed to be an open standard, but you cannot run your own email server or you'll be just banned. Yeah, I mean, like calendars on Nostr, like especially for public calendars, it would be fantastic. I mean, can you imagine like your conference? You just post your talks as however standard exists for that, please. And you just subscribe to that. Like one of my biggest pet peeves at conferences is that they don't have a fucking calendar on Google for you to subscribe to. You have to download some app and like horrible thing. But yeah, there is no good calendar. Microsoft Exchange gets hacked in every sort of services they offer it. I mean, Rackspace just dropped Microsoft Exchange services, which was their main business because it got hacked beyond salvation.
Yeah, so I guess you could just have a replaceable event for each event.
That's really cool. I mean, we don't have to get into the private calendar thing, but this is great.
Public calendars, yeah.
I'll probably make one. Yeah. One thing that I was playing with.
Pablo got another project to be done like this afternoon.
But it fits super well with the highlighter
Somebody has
stuff.
to.
But one thing that I was playing with the highlighter stuff is creating secret, like I'm calling them secret nodes, where you create a new key for each node. And then you encrypt using that key, and then you save the key that you're using as a self DM. So you save the key, the private key, and then you save like the pointer to the bet32 of the event that you're creating. And it's a way of creating like all these other nodes that are not linked to your main pub key. And something like this guy could also use for like private calendars as well.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely address key delegation after this one.
Yes.
So yeah.
I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave. Something popped up.
You know, I've been trying to nerd snipe somebody from Bitcoin who's really into creating like crazy signature schemas, because I feel like some Galaxy Brain adapter signature using the same key set or something that you have is like going to solve all the problems. And like, you know, and I'm just waving my hands for people that can see, because I have absolutely no idea how this is going to be resolved. I just know somebody can do it.
Is Jonas Nick on Nostr?
No, not yet. That's one of them that I was trying to. We should try to nerd snipe all these guys. Anyways, so calendars. we should add a bounty for that, like a public calendar system. It could be just for holidays to start. You know, like.
I'll gladly accept your bounty.
Really cool. Okay. I like, listen, you know, for us just joking that you're writing all those micro apps, like it's amazing that like somebody is just trying to create the micro apps, like, and just seeing what's possible. I think that's really cool.
The biggest thing that is so amazing that's going to come out of this is that there's going to be some random app that's probably not even be built by Pablo, or it's going to be built by someone, and it just takes off and all this data is being generated. And that'll be a great way to, for Damus just to tap into like, hey, if everyone's using this one particular note type, like why not just add that to Damus and everyone gets value from that. So these things that just go viral and take off are going to be, everyone's going to benefit from them, which is really cool.
Yeah. And they can even be with the names that Pablo chooses for them. Like it's not that big of a problem because it's very ephemeral. Fiat, you were trying to say something there?
No. I'm just laughing.
I like this. You know, me and Fiatjaf were commiserating about the fact that like Brazilians just interrupt each other, and we're finally having a more Brazilian style conversation here, where it's like nobody's on mute for half the time, and that's the way it should be if everybody knows each other. Okay, all right. So I guess we don't want to go to key delegation.
So why isn't like revocation a thing? Can't we just at least revocate a key? Isn't that like the simplest possible thing?
I think delegation is more like a catch-all to like all this behavior. We don't know if the behavior itself is going to be an actual sort of like what you see as delegation, but like also I don't know how you achieve key revocation on Nostr because it's a race condition that you can't guarantee.
You just send out an event, isn't it that easy?
Yeah, but how do you know like who's the right person? I mean, you're just gonna have to trust the client.
It doesn't matter if it's the person who is actually that person or is the person who isn't that person, as long as it's sent, and then it basically kills all the client could just ignore every event after that one event.
So it's going to be on a trust the client basis kind of thing.
You just delete the key, you nuke the key. Yeah, there's a NIP proposal for that from Alex Gleason.
It's just so simple. Like, why not do that, right?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think that's very simple.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one.
But like clients could just go rogue and just send that out.
Yeah.
Like nuke your
No,
account.
even better. It's like, let's say that like there's like Coinbase, for example, right? Like high honeypot there for like trying to scam their users, right? On social media. So say, for example, Damus is looking for a little bit of extra budget that year, and Coinbase has their key leaked, and Damus goes and honors it, right? Only to 90% subset of the users. To the other 10%, Damus sends DMs saying, "Hi, I'm Coinbase. What's your seed?" It's kind of a problem.
No, but you should check. Like, I think people are not that dumb. Like, they could check other places. And, maybe
I don't know, man.
Maybe I'm delusional, but I think
Yes.
people can learn.
People are that dumb. It does happen a lot. A lot of people lose money to fake ledger accounts on Twitter asking them for their seeds.
Yeah, but these people will fall for anything. They don't. The attackers don't need very
That's
complicated setups.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I think like the key exploration, like key delegation, key whatever you
So
want to do.
this key deletion thing, like you nuke a key. The problem is that all the clients and relays they have to keep a list of all the keys
Yes.
that were deleted forever. Or
Well, there could be an event.
No, it would just pull down that, try to pull it down, and if it's there, then the client could just ignore the events from that key, right? But yeah, you're saying like the relays would have
You
the key
need a
pillars,
list.
yeah.
yeah, you can't guarantee that. So
That's okay. I think that's okay.
maybe some clients and some relays will store for a while and then
Yeah.
stop.
That's what I was going to say. Like this is going to happen to spam as well, right?
The person that got their key leaked can keep that event, that deletion event, and if
And they can
the
keep
key
pushing it out, too.
Continues to be, just publish it again.
Blaster it.
Use Blaster.
That's XM radios. No, seriously, this is XM radios inverse XM radio setup. For XM radio, what they do is they key rotate, I think like every year. And then if your subscription is canceled or something, they send a message to all, like, because it's a single channel thing, right? And then everybody sort of like, well, but they control the receivers too. And then when you want to reactivate, you have to put on channel 1 and wait 15 minutes because they try to push whatever keys they can in those 15 minutes. And then there's another window, both sides. I don't know, man. Like, so spam is going to have a similar thing, right? You're going to have like relays that keep lists of spammers, right? Maybe as nodes. And then it's subscribed to those relays or an API, but let's say it's within Nostr. So it's a relay. And then you have those lists, and those are the ones you block. So maybe there is maybe those guys also offer the service of keeping track of deleted keys. And I don't know. It just sounds crazy because the amount of
Like a watchtower.
but the amount of deleted keys you're going to have is going to be bigger than non-deleted keys. Because if I was an attacker, I'll just spend all day creating new key and broadcasting dead key.
So if we don't have this revocation thing, like if my key ever leaks, I have like 110,000 followers. I'm gonna have to like update Damus to just like block that key and
Yes.
not show it. Like I don't want to have to like hack shit into my client to do that. So we definitely need revocation in some form. Or
I mean, it does create a bigger
So if
barrier.
I leak my key, I'll make a PR to Damus.
yeah, like that's what I'll have. If there's no revocation,
that's
that's
the
what I have
way.
to do, right?
That's right. We're just gonna have PRs add my key. But like to your point, I mean, like it's not like doesn't need to be perfect, but it does increase the cost of like fucking with it.
I think it just deleting the key fixes it for people that you're following someone and you have that in your follow. So you see the deletion, you stop following. That's already a very good thing.
That's true. That's true. It's just kicking off the follow list, whatever, because eventually it just becomes like, it's like you're muting the person who's trying to impersonate with that key by just sort of dropping it off. Like you just don't follow anymore. That's kind of nice, sort of very clean solution.
And you don't have to go into the whole key rotation complexity stuff. It's just like, let's just block this key. Because I was thinking about this morning when I was trying to figure out better solutions to NIP-05. And just, I really like that key oxide thing where you can put your identity and Keybase and put your identities on different websites and use a proof. So I was thinking, what if we had a Nostr proof in all those different entities? Like maybe do a tweet, maybe do a Reddit post, maybe there's some way that clients could check those signatures on those posts somehow, and then that might be a better way to put your key out there versus NIP-05.
But see, that's where I go like, okay, well, that's a good use case for actual key delegation. So like having sub keys for this kind of stuff would be kind of awesome, because like I don't necessarily, so for example, I love the Nostr login thing. Like so far the best login experience that has come up in the last 30 years, right? It's amazing. Now, what I don't want is that like websites that are unrelated to my like main Nostr use, like microblogging, to have access to know which pub key I am on Nostr, like microblogging. Right. So, for example, if I go log into my online banking, I don't want them to go see my Morse code posts because they wouldn't be able to link those.
I mean, like a BIP85 style.
So, how does Nostr login work? Is it basically just log in, assign a challenge with your Nostr key?
Yes.
That seems like a really bad idea, doesn't it? Because if you lose your key, then basically anyone has access to all the sites, right?
Yes.
No, it's just like
No, who is doing that? I don't know any website that does that. I was thinking like the web clients that you log in with the extension.
Oh no, there's lots of stuff. For example, what's the name? Saturn, like this little dashboard for you to know how many sats came to your blog post, to your podcast, and all that stuff. There's a lot of websites starting to add this.
it seems like a worse version of LN neural auth, right? Because it's like at least you're not linking to your Lightning pub key because they do some like HMAC thing, right?
Yeah, but LN neural auth is also very bad because you don't remember whatever key you use to log into each website, so it's very.
Well, that's why I do like the idea of having the key delegation. So like I have been experimenting with BIP85 for Bitcoin wallets and things. It has been like extremely useful, a lot more useful than I thought it was going to be, right? For example, having a single backup for a bunch of keys that I don't care if I lose too much, right? Because like on the phone wallets, I have very little Bitcoin and those wallets are using a derived private key, right? That's helpful.
What's that BIP?
85. Just go BIP85.com. We put a domain there. So yeah, like I mean, right now you could actually use that to generate 32 bits hacks, and you use that as your Nostr private key. I don't recommend it. It's kind of like it's kind of dumb, but it's okay. I mean, I guess you could use it that way. I think I'm more interested on if we did have a way to create subkeys with a proper subkey spec, that then you can create revocations for those subkeys from a master key. That would be nice. And you could do that if you have like somebody who really understands this shit come in and sort of create like maybe like a based on Frost. Because again, like Fiatjaf did choose to go with Schnorr instead of ECDSA. So
you think that was a very bad idea?
I don't think it was a bad idea. I just think it's going to like take longer for us to have solutions because we can't use because for a CDSA, we have like 50,000 different solutions on Bitcoin, right? Because it's been around. For the new key set, for the new primitive, we just don't have that many options yet. So we're going to have to wait until interesting things come.
But we save 1 byte. That's why I chose it.
I'm gonna make a hat, but we saved 1 byte. Okay, what else?
I'm kind of curious. You said RSS feed.
Yes.
Fiat, early on in Nostr's existence, you created RSS Slay.
Yeah.
It kind of is, I mean, most people don't connect to that relay. So they're kind of just like out there. Have you like do you guys have any thoughts on like maybe stronger? Obviously, I'm coming at this from a selfish perspective, right? But like this podcast, Bitcoin.review has an RSS feed already, right? Is there a way to like, make it more discoverable in terms of that RSS post going out or doing that in a better way?
It's got to push it to the Damus relay. Solved.
Sorry, Fiat, why don't you address that, and then I have a question.
Well, I think the approach there is still very good, except the implementation wasn't the best. But yeah, but I think people should somehow learn to connect to these relays, so they could have a relay hosting just the RSS feed, and people would connect to that and fetch the RSS without affecting the rest of their stuff. But I also wanted to replace RSS completely with just Nostr events. How do we get there?
That's a good one. I'd love to hear that.
Well, if you think about what, long form posts are about, it's in some sense, this idea where it's not the same as regular textos. You're just subscribing to something maybe that's not posted very often, and it's more thoughtful. And I don't know, like maybe that will become a new thing where you just post it as a long form note. Maybe that's not the solution, but
I mean, I can tell you from my sort of podcast, mine is very specific. Like most of the time is like these lists, right? It's like very long posts, and we always produce essentially like a long thing, amount of text that goes with the audio. So the idea of releasing this as a note with a link to the audio would be pretty cool. Like, because that's essentially, I guess, what a podcast RSS feed like entry is, right? Aside from the metadata.
Yeah, because Damus is going to have long form support. So if you wanted to like publish your podcast as like a feed, like there's probably going to be a different section on a profile of like all your long form posts. That could be like your podcast, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's the solution, or
I don't know. I just went to RSS Relay here, and I'm trying to add my feed. Just curious.
You're already added. That's the point. Nobody sees it because no one's connected to that relay.
No, I have not added. I just added now.
No, but you don't have to. Someone else added it.
Oh, I see.
Like someone added both of my podcasts before I added it.
Okay. Yeah, but like until there's a client for you to listen to, like, because listen, the beautiful thing about like pods on Apple is that like the Apple Pod like client is amazing. Like it really does a good job in audio quality and the syncing between the different devices and keeping track of the stuff and ignoring some pods that you don't listen to as often, that kind of shit. Until like you have the clients, a good client, sort of like pulling from a Nostr feed of a podcast, like then like you're not gonna see it happen. I mean, like for example, Fountain, right? Like I love Fountain to interact with the users who listen to the podcast and all that stuff, but like I don't use it to listen to podcasts because I don't like the listening experience there.
Yeah, we don't even have like push notifications in a lot of mobile clients yet. So it's like if you were going to try to consume feeds in some of these clients like Damus, like it's not a good experience. So yeah, I don't know.
Do you need push notifications? Like I run Antenna Pod, and every day it just downloads new episodes. It works very, very well.
Well, I mean, like one thing that what my immediate reaction when I found out about Nostr was like, oh my God, you can just replace PubNub for free. And PubNub is a very expensive service that does push notifications. Like Nostr is like the perfect solution to resolve push notifications if you are integrated with the platforms a little bit more deeply, right?
Yeah, and we'll get there. Like I am planning on adding like a relay that's going to push Apple notifications when you get, when you get an event. So.
Well, I mean, anybody listening out there, this is like $1 billion company right there. Replace PubNub.
So let me ask here, William. You said that, but I'm thinking if I'm following someone and the person is just publishing to some external relay, I will never get notifications from that person, right? For me to get it, that person will have to push to the special Damus relay.
Yeah. They would have to hit the Damus relay for it to be notified. So this is like for our users, like it's fine because they're gonna have it. But
no, it makes sense.
But if you're just if you're pushing, you won't get notified if you're not pushing to the Damus relay.
But I can still open the app and load from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that you can solve very, very easily on a per user basis, where you subscribe to a service that gets my follow list and pushes the events to whatever push notification relay you're using.
Yeah, but then you're asking people to run servers.
There's another feature that would need to be included as well. So a lot of people ask for the this is like a common thing on Twitter where you want to be notified whenever someone posts something. So I think what I'd have to do there is Damus would like publish a list to Nostra, and then whenever like a list of people, and then if those people send a note, then they would you'd also get notified. So I could probably support that.
What about subscribing to notes from other people? That's a thing that I always wanted to exist. Like I see someone asking a question, and I want to see the answer, but I can't subscribe to that note because I didn't post it, and I just don't get notified about that.
Well, that would actually be super useful. Like that's useful for the notes on Anana, Craigslist,
Nostr.
Seriously, like that's super useful for a bunch of different sort of applications, right? Just being able to like keep track. Maybe there is an app that all it does is just subscribe to notes and keep track of if there is any replies to them in multiple relays.
Do you just like want this to show up in your like notifications and your mentions when someone replies to a certain post?
I'm not sure if I want that on Damus per se, because there's a lot of stuff going on there, because all the social sort of media stuff, right? Like it's like the likes and everything else.
It fits Damus. I think the social apps. Like instead of subscribing to a person, you subscribe to a note, and that could be temporary. Like for the next 5 days,
okay, so
we'll query the relays for replies to that note, as well as other stuff.
I mean, query wise, it's pretty trivial to do that. So
it could be another tab there, right? I mean, it starts to become a lot of tabs, but
it is a niche. It is a niche thing. I've never needed that, but you can definitely do it.
What I did for highlighter is you can create a list and you can add notes, but you can also add pub keys to the note, to the list, and then the feed, you get a feed of the list. So you see replies to the notes, and then you see the feed of the people that list is following. And I don't know, the experience is, I mean, it's super broken at the moment, but the experience is kind of cool.
Well, that's very good. That's very interesting.
So this is like another application of like the pluggable algorithm idea. So imagine if you just have a script that knows how to subscribe to the notes, and then that could just be, a pluggable thing you add to Damus without me having to explicitly code it.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's gonna read the NIP?
No, don't
is it done
nips.
yet?
Stop writing nips. Jesus Christ.
I mean, like, no, but like this needs to live. How about like you do like we have nips and we have nipples. So on the nips are the official Nostr protocol things that, ideally get implemented. But then the nipples are auxiliary to it, kind of like they had to create Bolt and other things for Lightning because they don't belong as a BIP.
Well, Luke Dash Jr. wanted everything to be bips. The Lightning specs to be bips. The whatever crap you invent, like LNURL, to be BIP. And I think it makes sense, like to have a giant garbage can of everything. But still you need someone to curate on top of that later.
Wait, so you do want it to be a NIP then?
Yeah, that was the intention, but I don't know anymore.
He's bored. He likes the work.
Okay, guys. All right, so we are kind of approaching now about 2 hours here. So any other topics that like you think like we should bring up before we start sort of closing out? I guess okay. So one thing is business models and sort of like funding and other ways for people. I always felt like with Bitcoin you're dealing with money, right? So there's a higher chance for you to offer a value and take a cut. So it's a lot easier for you to find some monetization, right? On a protocol like Nostr, I find it, you become clear later, but at least now in the beginning, I feel like it's a bit harder. So, like any tips, tricks, or things that people should be looking for, and any other interesting sort of things that are happening in that front.
I feel like it's a bit premature. I feel like we should just try to take over the world first, and then the money issue will be less of an issue in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that.
100%.
I will say that 2 years ago, I helped to launch OpenSats. We're a 100% pass-through organization, 501c3. You can donate and get a tax credit if you're Americans, or you can donate anonymously using Bitcoin. That is up to whoever is donating. We've historically supported Bitcoin projects, but the general mission statement of OpenSats is basically use Bitcoin to support the greater free and open source movement. So we are looking forward to supplying more Nostr grants and Nostr focused grants. We're not quite there yet, but we're close. We're getting pretty close. So we'll have more to announce on that front soon. But personally, very excited about it. And I know no one wants to care about money, which is why I help to carry that burden for you guys. So there you go.
So yeah, on that front, there is funding coming to Nostr soon, so that people can apply for grants and things. That's going to be great, and I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot more of that coming, like with different organizations too, and because like the value is there, and there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people need, but they not be a business case for it to exist. So a little bit like the BDK with Bitcoin, right? Like it's like everybody could use that, especially earlier. So like last shitty wallets would be robbed. But there is no business on that, right? I mean, so many people try to make a business out of creating a development kit for Bitcoin, failed. So anyway, so like I feel like there's a lot of that could be help to this. And there's also a lot of like, like VCs that are also looking for investment in the space. And I don't know, it seems like things are sort of like starting to sort of like find a footing and sort of like start to move. And like there's things I don't like about VCs. Like there's things, there's many different paths, I guess. Like what's important is that there are paths. And like that to me is just proves that the technology has like people who want to use it.
There's going to be millions of dollars of VC money burned on not certain Nostr projects. I mean, there'll be millions allocated to good Nostr projects, but there's going to be a lot of burned money in the Nostr ecosystem. I hope you guys are all ready for it. I'm personally very excited for a $150 million raise from some A16Z backed Nostr company that wants to bring shitcoins to Nostr. So I hope you guys are prepared.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's inevitable, right? Like, I mean, the scammers will come. But yeah, Pablo.
No, yeah, I was saying that I don't know if this is what JB55 was saying or referring to with regards to not rushing. But the way I see it is if we try to think what we're building in terms of how we're going to monetize it, it's going to reduce our creativity and
it's premature.
The amount.
Yes,
it's absolutely premature. So,
but there is like more sort of like any investment that I have ever made has always been on like the people who I know can pivot like 50 times over. And then eventually like they're just great people that I want working on something. And I know eventually they're going to figure out a way of making money or get hired by somebody else. But like, like there is ways of doing this with some ethics and like also in a way that doesn't prevent people from like having creativity and sort of experiment different things. You can always count on smart people to come up with different fucking ideas, right? Like, and ideally, eventually recognize that they suck at making money and hire somebody who's good at that to be part of their new idea too. It's like there's a lot of that. There's no perfect answers, but it's just nice that like I think from the amount of noise I'm hearing from different places about like VCs and like grants and things, and that like things are coming because like it just proves that this thing is going somewhere. By the way, check out Nostr.fund. There is stuff going there at some point.
Yeah, and we still have the Nostr fund from Jack, the Nostra's sugar daddy. So
I love it.
So I don't know, maybe
I bet he's cringing right now because he loves when you bring this up.
No,
Nostr sugar daddy.
Though.
That's great.
It's true.
Yes,
it's true
100%.
though. Like these grants have actually been really helpful just for getting us through like this time of we're just experimenting. We're trying to figure out what we're doing, and one of these ideas is going to be like the $100 million idea. Maybe it's already here. It's just we just haven't seen it yet. But these funds, these grants from these very generous people has been extremely helpful, and just at least for me, just allowed me to continue working on it.
You want good people working on this stuff, right? Like you don't want like just people just jerking off working on this stuff. Like good quality devs like could have a better job somewhere making a lot of fucking money, right? Instead of just jerking off with this stuff. And their wives would be sort of like hitting them in the head saying, hey, there is other stuff, like, so like,
it's nice that there is funding that is not necessarily with strings attached, right? Like available to people who are good working on new tech.
Yeah, this is why we created OpenSats. And while we're shilling websites, opensats.org for more information. I will say, if you have a Nostr project, don't press the apply button yet. Just give us 2 weeks. But just on the Dorsey comment, by the way, Will, I was shilling Nostr on Twitter the other day because it's pretty much all I use Twitter for now is just shill Nostr. And one of the top comments was like, "Isn't that Dorsey's new startup?" So many such cases.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. I just say yes.
Just so people know, the Nostr.fund will be redirected to opensats.com/Nostr.
No, it's opensats.org.
.org/Nostr.
We also have the .com, but we're an organization, so we use the .org.
It already says the Nostr fund by OpenSats on the title.
Hey, Odell, I'm too new to OpenSats. I don't know yet the URLs, even though I was added to the website.
There you go. Yeah, I get a unsafe error. I guess you don't have an SSL cert set up there, right?
Yeah, sure. Send me a profile.
But just go to opensats.org in 2 weeks.
Send me a SSL profile for me to install on all my devices. All right, guys. I think we've got to a good point here. We didn't even address all the music shit on Nostr, the Stemster, the Wave Lake, and like the other million things. So for the audience, what I think I'm going to start doing now, because Nostr is getting out of control with updates, is I think I'm going to do a Nostr list every month on top of like a few major sort of Nostr updates on the Bitcoin list episode. And then hopefully I get some of these guys who are actually building on Nostr to come here, like Fiat and JB and Pablo, and maybe Odell joins as a usual guest to participate on the Nostr list episodes. And if you are the person who owns Nostr.review without an S, I am interested. I do own Nostr.reviews, which I am interested in trading with you.
I'm glad you said that because I was signing into Namecheap to buy Nostr.review, so you saved me the trouble.
So anyways, guys, listen, okay, let's do some final thoughts here. So Fiatjaf, please, final thoughts, sir.
Domain names are shitcoins, and I don't have any other final thoughts, yeah.
Thank you.
JB55.
Yeah, I think if just looking back, it's been a couple months since they started really taking off, and just to see all the progress, all the apps have been coming up and coming, such as all of Pablo's apps have been amazing. And just I think this is just the start of something really special, I feel like. And let's keep building cool stuff. And then this whole structure is getting better for every new app and every new interoperable thing. So yeah, I'm just really excited for the future of all the stuff that's going to be built on it. So
yep, thank you. That was spot on.
After that, I regret my final comment.
Okay, Fiatjaf, you're a mulligan. No. Now we want to hear. Final thoughts, Fiatjaf.
Well, I'm just hoping that Nostr will conquer the world and destroy Blue Sky and Mastodon, and yeah, I'm excited. Now that I learned that there are more than 100,000 people on Nostr, I'm much more excited for the future.
The best source of analytics for this stuff is the one that has the biggest number, and that's the one you follow. And then you create competition to see which one has the bigger number. All right, Mr. Odell.
I mean, I just want to thank you all for having me join you for this great conversation. I'm very excited about Nostr. It reminds me a lot of being introduced to Bitcoin for the first time. Obviously, there's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities in how it feels. It's hard. The vibes feel a lot like Bitcoin. I will say, not only am I excited about Nostr, but we need it. We need a censorship-resistant open communication protocol more than ever. So I'm looking forward to supporting it however I can, whether that's through my venture fund, 1031, whether that's through my open source foundation, OpenSats, or just the content I make. I mean, you can find me on Nostr with my NIP-5 before it gets deprecated. Odell at werunbtc.com. And I just want to thank you, gents.
Oh, no. You got to read your NPub.
My NPub can be found at at odell.xyz/Nostr. And I just want to personally thank you guys for building out Nostr. Like, I use it every day, and it wouldn't be possible without you guys, so thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Fiat, do you want to update your final thoughts now after Matt's final thoughts?
No, please.
No, come on. You must have. No, come on.
You can find my NIP5 at fiatjaf.com. And also support the NIP5 without the first name, please. Oh, you don't have to. Whatever. Yes. But I like it.
Yeah, no, I am a underscore maximalist now for NIP5.
Is that why when I tried to type Fiatjaf at fiatjaf.com, it didn't work in Damus?
Yeah.
Because Damus doesn't support it.
So what do? I
It's
just
underscore.
put in my well-known underscore as my instead of Odell.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have both so that people don't lose it. That's how I do it.
Got it.
Pablo,
But most
final
players
thoughts?
render it as the underscore. It's not,
Yeah, it
would be
works.
cool
It
if
works.
they don't even render the underscore. Final thought. I mean, NIP-05 is a shitcoin.
NIP-05 is going to be better than NIP-5.
I'm just super excited with what's going on. I mean, this is pretty obvious because I keep launching different things, but I'm just like the non-social media use case of Nostr has me like super uber excited. I have a lot of contacts and friends and family that are not into social networks at all, but when I show them some of the other stuff that is non-social network related, it's like it starts to resonate with them. And to me, the high value accrual for the network as a whole, it's going to end up coming from the mostly non-social media. Like marketplaces is an obvious one. There's an obvious social component to it, but it's not a social network. And all these other cases, I don't know. To me, the idea when you have addressable content, you have content that has an ID, and you can refer to that content by ID, and you can mesh it with all kinds of different use cases. I don't know. To me, like that, the creativity that can fall is what has me like super bullish.
So what you're saying is we need Yahoo pipes for Nostr.
Pretty much, that's exactly what I say.
Fiatjaf, any updated final thoughts based on Pablo's final thoughts?
Please.
I have an updated final thought based off of Pablo's final thought.
Please do.
I actually just want to say, like, honestly, like, thank you, Pablo, just for, because this is what we need the most in Nostr, is to show like what is its true potential. And devs like Pablo are doing exactly that. And that's what we need the most right now. It's just like, let's build out these cool, crazy ideas and just see where it goes. And so, yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the cool things you're building. And I'm really excited, looking forward to implementing a lot of them into Damus. So
thanks, man.
So guys, I mean, like, this is awesome. Like, I think like, so Bitcoin wins because, it has the best memers, right? Like, Nostr wins because it has the best vibes, right? Like, everybody's super helpful. Everybody's super useful, and in the spirit of building a social technology, which kind of is what Nostr is, the people in it seem to really sort of take that to heart and be helpful in that way. It's almost like the opposite of the way that Bitcoin needs to be built in that sense. Bitcoin needs to be a system where people sort of like fight each other because that's how money works. It has to be adversarial. But in this system is the opposite. We're trying to build bridges, right? You build the bridges to pass on the Bitcoin. And I don't know, like, just having this 2 hours with you guys, like, it gives me so much fucking hope for this thing. And I think you're all sort of building awesome stuff. I echo what JB said about Pablo's million micro apps. Like, people need to see what's possible. I still think that 999%, even the people who are devs on it, don't even see Nostr for, anything else that is not microblogging. And, props to you. And I mean, JB building a social media platform, you really love paying.
And
it's
in
super
Swift,
cool, but man,
nonetheless.
it's a lot of work in Swift. It could be worse. It could be JavaScript.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and Fiat, thanks for still being around, man, and like participating and helping the network grow and not Satoshing us. And, you know, Odell helping educate people and all this stuff. Like I feel like it's a bit of a love fest, but that's what this thing is. So thank you all for participating on this episode. And I hope to have you guys all soon again to talk about the other 13,000 things that were created on Nostr between now and a month from now.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more resources, check the show notes. We put a lot of effort into them. And remember, we don't have a crystal ball, so let us know about your project. Visit bitcoin.review to find out how to get in touch.